Welcome all to the fourth session of the Consignment Accounts. Today we will be solving problems on abnormal loss and closing stock. Okay, so before I start with the class, let me tell you that what we learnt in the previous class about the calculation of abnormal loss. Just want to remind you that we need to prepare a table having an amount column. First, what we take? We will take cost price of goods lost. Okay. And then what we do? We add proportionate total non-recurring expenses of consignor. Of consignor. Then we also add proportionate total non-recurring expenses of consignee. Consignor and consignee, both we will add. Okay, and whatever comes, and what we need to remember is we add consignee's expenses only when the goods are lost in the godown. We need to understand when it is possible, when we the loss of the goods occurs in the godown, then, or we can say after the consignee collects the goods, then we add his non-recurring expenses also. Okay, so now let's start with solving problems so that we can easily solve them. Now let's begin. X of Bombay consigned 200 calculators at a cost of 400. We need this because we need cost price. Each, you need to underline, circle like this so that you can solve easily. Each to Y of Pune. So Y, who is Y here? Consignor. Consignee, sorry. Who is X here? Consignor. Okay. X paid 300 as freight. We have seen that freight is a non-recurring expenses. Loading, again non-recurring. We know that all consignors expenses are non-recurring expenses. And insurance. During the transit, 15, when it is transit, forget about adding the non-recurring expenses of consignee because it is in transit. Okay, were accidentally destroyed. Y received the remaining calculators by paying 50 unloading. It is non-recurring, but it will not be considered because the loss has taken place before he collect the goods. That's why his expenses will not be added. So now how to solve it? Very easy. Now I have already drawn the format. So I wish you people also draw the same format in your notebooks. First, cost price of the goods lost. How many calculators have been lost? 15. Okay. And each calculator costs how much? 40. So what I write here? 15 into 400, sorry. 15 into 400, which will be 6,000. Now, add proportionate total non-recurring expenses of consignor. Let's see how much consignor has spent. 300, 100, 1000. Total is 1400. And this 1400 were spent for how many units? They were spent for 200 units. They have spent for 200 units. Okay. And out of, see, for 200 units, they have spent 400. But the goods lost were only how many units? 15. So now 2020 cancel, 2 ones are 2 sevens are 15 sevens are 105. So the value of abnormal loss is 6,105. As I said, consignor's non-recurring expenses, consignee's non-recurring expenses we will not be considering. The reason behind this is because the goods have destroyed or the goods have lost before it reaches to him. So when they did not reach him, then the question of spending on those goods will never arise. Now, this was regarding valuation of abnormal loss. Next. Next is valuation of closing stock. Basavaraj of Vijaypur consigned to Shiva of Raichur. So who is Basavaraj consigner? Who is Shiva consignee? 400 bats costing 100 each. We need to be very clear. What is my cost price? 100. Basavaraj paid 1200 towards freight and insurance. Try to understand. He has paid 1200 towards freight and insurance. As they are consigners, it will be non-recurring expenses. And 400 for packing, again non-recurring expenses. Shiba received bats and paid 400 godown rent. Rent is a recurring expenses. Entry tax, how much? 800. This is one time, so it is non-recurring. Advertisement recurring. Carriage outwards recurring. Clear? Now, Shiva sold 320 bats. Why this information is necessary? Because there were totally 400 bats, out of which he sold how much? 320, and there are no further losses. That means the closing stock units. How we find out closing stock units? If you remember, in the previous class I said quantity of closing stock is equal to quantity sent minus quantity returned minus quantity sold minus quantity of normal loss and minus quantity of abnormal loss. Here, the quantity sent was 400 bats. There is nothing returned. There is the total sold is 120. No information about normal loss or abnormal loss. So my closing stock units will be how much? 80. This is working note. Now next comes, as everything is given in the cost price in this problem, this will be a cost price problem. So cost price of the closing stock will be 80 into, what is the cost price? Now 80 is the quantity and cost price of each bat is 100. So that comes to 8,000. Now, proportionate NRE of consigner. Proportionate non-recurring expenses of consigner. It will be, let us see. First this 1200 towards freight and insurance and 400 packing charges. So total it will be 1600 into 1600 into total stock. How much it is? 400. Out of which, how many units are remaining in the stock? 80. So 8 ones are 8 5s are 5 ones are 5 3s are. So it will be 320. 320. Then there is no proportionate non-recurring expenses of consignee. Hence, it will be 8,320. 8,320. Okay, next. Then we will see problems where both are given, closing stock as well as abnormal loss, calculation of closing stock and calculation of abnormal loss. Now, let's look at the problem in which we have both. that is closing stock and abnormal loss. Now find out the abnormal loss and value of closing stock from the following information. Oil supplied on consignment is 12,000 kgs and the cost is 18 per kg. The packing and forwarding charges are 12,000. This is non-recurring expenses. Oil lost in transit is 2000 kgs, that is abnormal. Oil sold by the consignee is 400. Fantastic. Now, loss of oil due to evaporation is something which is normal loss. Okay. Now, first let us find out what is quantity of closing stock. First, 12,000 minus, out of 12,000, 9,000 have been sold. Okay. And 2,000 is the which loss? 2,000 is the oil loss, abnormal loss. Okay. Then next comes, out of that whatever 5,000 is remaining. Okay, because first 12 minus 3, 3 minus 2, how much is remaining? 1,000. And in that also, in the 1,000, oil in transit is 2,000 kgs ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿದೆ. So total ಉಳಿದಿದ್ದೆಷ್ಟು ಈಗ 1,000 kgs. What is that? That is quantity of stock, but there is a specific instruction for that. What it says? 5% is evaporation. See, in 12,000, when you deduct 2,000 abnormal loss, then whatever is the remains, on that 5% has to be calculated. That comes to 500. So this is how we did it. Now in this problem, now let's begin with the solution. First by calculating the value of abnormal loss, because we need abnormal loss quantity and value to find out the closing stock. Okay, so first we need to take cost price of the goods lost. Let's see how many units have been lost. Here it is mentioned how much it is, 2000 kgs, and the price of the each kg given in the problem is 18, so it will be 36,000. Add proportionate TNRE of the consignor. Here the consignor has spent 12,000 on consignment, so that's why we will consider 12,000, but those 12,000 are for 12,000 units. Now, but we want proportionately for how much? 2,000. So again that comes to 2,000, and as it is lost in transit, we will not add consignee's proportionate TNRE. By that we will have total abnormal loss of 38,000. Okay. Now, to ascertain the closing stock when normal loss is given, we use this format. Okay. So first, what is the cost price of the goods sent? We know that total 12,000 units have been sent, and each unit costs, or each kg costs 18 rupees. So it will be 2,16,000. Add total non-recurring expenses of consignor as well as consignee. Okay. So if you look at the problem, it is said that the forwarding charges paid by the consignor is 12,000 and consignee has not paid any expenses, then the question of identifying it as recurring or non-recurring does not arise. So this will be 12,000 and this will be 2,28,000. Generally this is named as cost price of goods sent. And you know that there are no goods returned, so it will remain same, 12,000, 2,28,000. Then abnormal loss, how many units were there? 2,000, and the value of that was 38,000. Now we got 10,000 and we got 1,90,000. And less normal loss, you know that normal loss only we consider units and not amount because it is recovered from good units. So now 9,500 and 1,90,000. So this is called as cost of goods available for sale, and this is considered as units of goods available for sale. And from this, how to determine closing stock? Okay, actually there is no space available here. Okay, I will use it here. I use this here. Now, first we need to ascertain what is the quantity of closing stock. Quantity of closing stock. Okay, first, what is the quantity sent? 12,000. Out of that, nothing is returned. Okay. Then, how much is sold? It is given here. Total 9,000 is sold minus. What is quantity of abnormal loss? 2,000 minus. What is quantity of normal loss? 500. Sir, how you got 500? Remember, it is 5% of 10,000. It is being given that normal loss is 5%. Okay. So it is 10,000's 5%. It is 500. So you will get quantity of closing stock as 500 kg. Now, value of closing stock is equal to COGAS. That is what we have ascertained. Then UOGAS. Whatever comes, that need to be multiplied with the quantity of closing stock. That is equal to 1,90,000 divided by 9,500 into 500. That will be equal to rupees 10,000. Hope you have understood this. This is about closing stock. This is amount, this is about abnormal loss, and this is about closing stock. But actually the calculation you need to continue after this problem, but as I did not had space, I continued here. Okay, next. One more problem to ascertain closing stock and normal loss. See, Abhi Patil of Raichur consigned 500 fans at a cost of rupees 1,000 each to Kedar of Ballari. Who is Abhi Patil here? Consigner. Who is Kedar here? Consignee. He paid freight and insurance 30,000. In course of transit, 50 fans were totally destroyed. See, this is the quantity of abnormal loss. Kedar of Ballari received 450 units, okay? 450 fans, and paid rupees 9,000 as unloading and carriage. Okay, unloading and carriage. Kedar of Ballari sold 350 fans and incurred 5,000 as godown rent, that is recurring, not required for us, and selling expenses, totally 5,000 as rent and selling expenses, but both are recurring. But here this is the only one which is non-recurring in nature. Okay, so first, what is the cost price of the goods lost? 50 units. Here it is given. 50 fans were lost in the transit. Into 1000, it will be 50,000. It will be 50,000. Okay. Next. What are the proportionate TNRE of the consignor? Now, as the goods are lost in transit, we will not have this. Just put a dash here. Okay. Now, proportionate TNRE of the consignor. Total 30,000 has been spent. Okay. This 30,000 has been spent on how many units? 500. But we need it for 50 units because goods lost are only 50. So if we do this, we will get 3,000 rupees. Total 53,000. Okay, now coming to closing stock. In this problem, normal loss does not exist. Okay, so first, what we will see, cost price of the or invoice price, whichever is the case, of the closing stock. Now, question arises first, what is quantity of the closing stock? Let us ascertain here. Actually, this should be done as a working note. Now, quantity of closing stock is equal to, there is a very big formula, quantity sent minus quantity returned minus quantity sold minus quantity of abnormal loss minus quantity of normal loss. So, how much was sent? 500 minus returned was 0. Then next is quantity sold is 350, quantity of abnormal loss is 50 and quantity of normal loss is 0. So we get closing stock units as 100. Okay. So now we need to ascertain the price of it. 100 into 1000. It will be 1 lakh. Now add proportionate NRE of the consignor. So consignor has totally spent 30,000. But he spent this for how many units? 500 fans. But we want it only for 100. So that comes to 6,000. And we don't need consignees because the goods are lost in transit. So the total is 1,06,000. Hope you got it. And this was regarding the valuation of abnormal loss and closing stock. These questions can be asked in the examination. Okay, in your section B. Okay, thank you.